We are the party of choice.
So say the Democrats.
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor.
But Republicans say
this is the most anti-choice administration we've seen in a lifetime.
we like to have choices. I want to choose to put a pink mustache on my minivan and act like a taxi driver.
Where are you headed?
But taxi drivers don't want me to do this.
We have to pay big money for licenses. We have to get fingerprinted. We have to have commercial insurance. Pink mustache has nothing.
Also, can there be too much choice?
They got mochaccino, they got chocochino, frappuccino, cappuccino, rappuccino, al pacino.
I'm of two minds in the supermarket.
It's great. Look at all these choices. Oh no, look at all these choices. So much choice. That's our show tonight.
And now, John Stossel.
When we talk choice, there's not much more important than health care. The president sold Obamacare saying it would lower costs and yet give us more coverage and more good choices. Win-win. Some people would gain better insurance, and even if you didn't, you wouldn't lose anything.
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor. Period.
Oops, that one didn't work out so well. Millions have learned that, no, you don't get to keep your doctor. 6 million policies were canceled, but millions of Americans who did not have health insurance before now do have it. And that's why Obamacare is good, says Dr. Kathleen London of Doctors for America, a group that wants government to pay for more of our health care. On the other side, Michael Tanner of the Cato Institute, who wrote a book saying we need more competition and less government. So, Kathleen, I agree with Michael, but you say Obamacare is a great thing.
I'm looking at the number of people who have come in who before had to choose between paying their rent or paying for health care, or who couldn't get it because of pre-existing conditions or other reasons, who are now able to actually get coverage. Those plans that were canceled weren't really good coverage. These were plans that when you got really sick, they were going to be gone.
Greedy insurance companies were selling junk to people.
Well, actually, we know that the number one reason, for example, that plans didn't meet the Obamacare standards was they didn't offer sufficiently lengthy time of a maternity recovery. Well, okay, that's fine, but if I'm a 55-year-old gay man, I'm probably not worried about my maternity coverage.
But we're all in this together. Don't we want everybody covered?
Sure, and let's give credit where it's due. Obamacare has covered about 8 million people, although about half of those have been pushed into Medicaid, which really isn't very good insurance. Still, in exchange for that, roughly 5 million people lost their health insurance, were forced to get other types of policies. I can't buy the type of insurance that I want today, and in many cases I'm being pushed into an insurance plan that has a very narrow network and may not include my current doctor.
And I wouldn't even agree with you to say we want everybody covered. I want a free market. I want people to have skin in the game.
We did that. It failed.
When?
That's what we had before.
No,
before
it's not.
the ACA, we had a free market.
No, we didn't.
How did we not have a free market before?
90% of the bills were paid by somebody else, either government, 60%, or a private insurance company. So if I went to see you, I'm not saying, hey, doc, do I really need this test? What'll it cost? If I gave you the money, you wouldn't even have a cash box to take it. You're getting money from insurance companies.
Go back 20, 30 years.
That's not a market.
Go back 20, 30 years, we had that. Go back 40 years.
We haven't had
years.
it since World War II.
Well, that started because of trying to give another way of incentive to hire employees. So that started all because of
big government managing our lives, reducing our choices. And now we have more of it with Obamacare.
Insurance companies are more of the issue that you're discussing and the frustrations you're discussing. And I don't disagree on that mark of it. Honestly, as a physician, I have more difficulty dealing with private insurers than I do Medicare.
But that's not going to be the case for long. And beginning in 2017, when the Independent Payment Advisory Board takes effect, the government is going to begin to ratchet down reimbursement rates to physicians. That's bound to lead to rationing. If you increase demand, decrease supply, you don't have to be an economic genius to recognize what's going to happen.
Somebody's going to ration. Either it's the patient, if you pay yourself, or it's a private insurance company, or it's the government.
But it should be me. I should ultimately make that decision.
Well, then pay your own bills.
I should, but unfortunately under Obamacare I can't because I'm mandated to buy insurance and mandated to buy a specific type of insurance that the government thinks I should have, that has the benefits they think I should have.
Kathleen, why do I have to buy alcohol rehab coverage and diet care and maternity care?
That all kind of goes together, yes, that we are a society and this goes into
why don't I have
pool.
choice to get what I want?
Because at the end of the day, your dietary choices and stuff, we are all paying for it. We are paying for that we have an obesity epidemic, that diabetes is now the #1 thing that we are now having as an epidemic in this country and that we're all paying for. That we do have alcoholism as an issue, that we do have all these problems. So you pay now or you pay later. It's a whole lot cheaper to pay it now. As for the maternity care, when we didn't have that mandate, when I was in medical school, I got pregnant right as I was graduating and started residency. There I am with my MD from Yale, starting residency in Oregon. Guess what? It was a pre-existing condition. I couldn't get coverage. A physician starting residency.
So if you could afford the tuition at Yale, you could pay your
I was being paid $20,000 a year as a resident, and I couldn't get maternity care.
Look, there are ways to deal with pre-existing conditions that don't involve simply overcharging young, healthy people and making them subsidize older and sicker people. Why should someone who's just got out of college, who's got a $20,000 a year job in residency, be subsidizing insurance for Warren Buffett and Bill Gates? Essentially, that's what Obamacare does. It makes young, healthy people subsidize older and sicker people.
The one area of medicine where insurance doesn't pay, LASIK eye surgery, prices came down. And there's competition. The doctors give out their cell phone numbers because they want to please the patients. And
the same is true with cosmetic surgery and even dental care, which is less covered. Prices have not risen anywhere near at the rate that insurance-covered services have risen.
So you want to take the risk that when you need bypass surgery, you're paying that out of pocket?
That's
or you end up being hit by a car?
I want to buy a catastrophic policy that covers me being hit by a car or bypass surgery. But the small stuff, I want to pay myself. I want to market.
So what are you going to do about all the lifestyle issues? What are you going to do about all the inherited diseases and everything else? So again, you get back to the idea that we are a society.
Shouldn't people be responsible for their own lifestyle issues? Look, if I go out and eat 20 Big Macs tomorrow and have a heart attack, isn't that my responsibility?
And so what about, so you're going to ding people for having bad genetics?
I'm going to ding people for having bad habits and bad lifestyles.
And what about their genetics? So that they're born with missing a gene that ends up being an incredibly expensive therapy? That's their fault? Really?
Now, look, we can deal with people with pre-existing conditions. Virtually every proposal to replace Obamacare includes some provision to cover people with pre-existing conditions through things like risk pools and things like that we deal with people with high-risk drivers.
But no one dealt with it until Obamacare happened. I'm not saying it's a perfect plan, but it was the one that we could get through that Congress. It was the first one that addressed pre-existing conditions, rescission of care, of lifetime caps, and everything else, and all the issues that we do have that weren't being addressed. And as we move forward, we will continue to form it into something that is going to be better.
Since we're all in this together, you say, and others have to pay for my costs, should we ban cigarettes, ban alcohol?
I do believe in sin tax.
Should we require mandatory calisthenics every morning? They do that in North Korea. They all show up in their little green jumpsuits.
Okay,
and so on.
On that note, Kathleen and Michael, thank you. Now another fight about health care and choice. To me, a most basic medical and moral question is, who owns your body? I would think you do. And in a free society, I think that means you can take risks, go skiing, drive a race car. Most importantly, if you're sick, owning your body means you can try a medicine that you think might help you. Any medicine. Yet today in America, you can't. You can't try a medicine without government approval. Some people die because the FDA won't allow them to try a drug.
If you have a terminal illness, should you have the right to try treatments that might save your life but are not yet officially approved?
Michaela Knapp died 2 weeks ago. Keith Knapp lobbied members of Congress and the media to save his wife, but ran out of time.
Ran out of time. She died in April. The drug was approved just last week. In another case, two brothers have an illness that is causing their muscles to wither away until they die. There is no known cure, but the younger brother was lucky because the FDA did allow him to try an experimental drug, and that drug helped him. Max is getting better, but his brother Austin is not.
My brother Max can run and walk. I can only sit in my wheelchair and watch him.
Our government will not allow Austin to try something that worked for Max, that might let him live. Here's his mom.
If Austin is never given the chance to get on a Teplerson, we know with 100% certainty that he will die.
People die because government says no. But there is some good news. 3 states, Colorado, Louisiana, and Missouri, recently passed laws that say if you're terminally ill, the choice is yours, sort of. You may try an experimental drug if you can prove that you're terminal, if the drug company will let you have it, and if the FDA doesn't order the drug company not to give it to you. This small step towards sanity happened largely because of the work of the think tank, the Goldwater Institute. Starlee Coleman works on this for Goldwater, so am I characterizing it correctly? 3 states now will allow you to beg and try to scheme and get something that might keep you alive.
That's right. So in those 3 states, people who are terminally ill are now allowed to go around the FDA straight to a drug company to ask permission to try to save their own lives.
But the drug company may say, no, I don't want to get in trouble with the FDA.
They might. And, obviously there's no guarantee with these laws. This whole show's topic is about choice, and we are trying to give people who are dying the choice to try to save their own life without the government's permission.
The FDA says, look, if you're dying, we have something called a compassionate use process. And today they emailed us, we allow nearly every expanded access request to proceed.
Sure, that's true, they do. Except the problem with the compassionate use program is that it takes over 300 hours of bureaucratic paperwork and wrangling to get through the process. And even though they might ultimately approve you, there have been a lot of documented cases of people actually dying while they're waiting for the FDA to make a decision.
It can take years. It routinely takes years.
Routinely.
I mean, they say, we allow nearly every expanded access 2-3 years later.
Right, so we're talking about terminally ill people here. They don't have 300 hours of bureaucratic wrangling time. They don't have time. They need help now. And what Right to Try lets them do is say, okay, I'm going to this drug company that has an experimental drug. They're going to give me an answer right away, yes or no. I at least have the choice to try.
Josh Thompson has ALS. His family initiated this process. What happened?
It took Josh's family about 3 years. He had to hire a law firm in order to get through the compassionate use process. The crazy thing about Josh's story is that the drug that he wanted to try was manufactured in Virginia by an American drug company, already legal in Italy. He just wanted to try it. 3 years, they finally gave it to him after he had already lost the ability to walk, talk, feed himself, and even swallow.
Is this just bureaucratic narrow-mindedness? I mean, they're not mean people.
No, I mean, look, all of these safety procedures that are in place at the FDA came because they're trying to keep people safe, right? And there's, a good time and a place for making sure that the aspirin and the Tylenol and the Zyrtec that we buy at CVS is not going to kill us. But when you are terminally ill, when your option is certain death or maybe not, the FDA really needs to think about how they address those issues.
Thank you, Starlee. To join this argument, please tweet using that hashtag choice or post on my Facebook page. We'd like to know what you think about this. Coming up, I put a pink mustache on my minivan to celebrate choice in taxi service. Also, evil Republicans and evil Democrats. I say they're both evil because they won't let me make my own choices. I'll confront a Democrat next.
We are the party of choice, which is exactly why I'm tired of Republicans and others saying to me, I do respect your choice. Don't get an abortion.
That was Democratic strategist Julie Roginski. Democrats often call themselves the party of choice. But when they say that, they're almost always talking about abortion. It's like they're obsessed with abortion. But other kinds of choice, the right to choose your child's school, not to join a union, to buy a gun, to pay people what you want to pay them in your own business, buy what you want to buy, then Democrats are not so big on choice. And as they grow government, we have fewer choices. Here's Senator Rand Paul on that.
It's light bulbs, it's toilets, it's cars, you name it. Your freedom of choice is gone. For a party that says they are the pro-choice party, this is the most anti-choice administration we've seen in a lifetime.
Yes, as government grows, free choice shrinks. So let's turn to Democratic big government apologist Alan Combs.
That's me. First of all, I am a liberal who happens to vote Democratic, because where else am I going to go?
It was an unfair intro. I'm not fooling around here.
I don't speak for the party. I identify more with the L word than the D word, but okay.
Let's start with school choice. Why can't I take the government money and send my kid to whatever school I want?
In Sweden, for example, they tried it, didn't work. They used the Milton Friedman model, where not only did the people get to
work.
Well, no, it didn't. It's not working. In fact, because some of those schools, those private schools, are getting out of the school business, and the kids are getting screwed. And furthermore, not only do you get to choose what school you go to, the school gets to choose whether or not they're going to accept you. When the school gets to choose to reject you, there's less choice for the student. Because
so how's your way working out for poor kids?
I would work out a lot better if we put more resources into public schools. Absolutely.
Guns. Why can't I have the choice to buy a gun here in New York City?
It's not a matter of choice as a word that one size fits all. You want the choice to have a nuclear weapon? You want the choice to have a cannon?
See rules
Where does
against
choice
nuclear
end?
weapons.
You want to be pro-choice on everything? I want a nuclear weapon on my front lawn. You want that?
No, I'll stop short of nuclear weapons.
Okay, so you're not pro-choice then.
Why can't
I want to make that choice.
Unions. Let's talk about unions for a moment. I mean, you're a union supporter. When I worked at ABC, I had to join a union called AFTRA, the American Federation of TV and Radio Artists.
Yes.
I didn't want to join AFTRA. I'm not an artist, and
sure
I didn't
you
want to pay the union.
You're an artist. You're a television artist. Look at you.
I wanted to be judged on my own
art.
merits and skills. I didn't want to be lumped in with Geraldo and all those other AFTRA members at ABC, but I had no choice because New York is a union shop state, and that means once a union's certified at ABC, I have to join or I can't work there.
And you get the benefits that the union fights for, whether you want them or not. And the unions historically have fought for weekends, 8-hour days, some basic minimum wage for people, the right not to have child labor.
Okay.
The unions have fought for stuff that you benefit from.
Why do I have to?
Because everybody benefits. You know, the word collective, I know sounds like communism.
Yeah.
But we do work and live in a society where there is a collective well-being, and you benefit, as I've just been mentioning, for the things that union members fought for. You pay into it, you get the goodies. You get a pension, after has health care, all the things that you get.
I could form a group of correspondents and negotiate for a pension.
So wouldn't that be some kind of a union? You're forming your own union, right?
But it would be voluntary. Voluntary is better than forced.
Forced, again, you use the word force. I don't know that there's a crowbar in your head. But the fact is,
if I wanted to work there,
there's mutual benefit for all, and you've benefited from what unions have accomplished.
You fine with government health care? You want more government health care,
I want the government to take over health care. Health care should be a right. It should be for all, and we shouldn't ever have to worry about getting basic care.
Government bigger, more government
on certain
control.
things, not everything. I'm not saying the government should tell you what to eat. Everybody should have health care. Everybody should have an education. Everybody should have a warm radiator in their place of residence. We have the resources to do it. We spend all this money on war, no questions asked.
Thank you, Alan Combs. Under the Combs administration, you're going to be buying people warm radiators.
I want to announce now I'm not running.
Good. I should point out Republicans are anti-choice too. Many are not just anti-abortion, they're anti-gay marriage, anti-drugs, gambling, anti-free speech in some cases. So I'll confront a Republican next. And then, is it possible to have too much choice?
They got mochaccino, they got chocochino, frappuccino, cappuccino, rappuccino, al pacino.
I call Democrats anti-choice, pro-choice on abortion, but they don't want to let me eat what I choose, hire who I want, buy a gun, not join a union, not buy Obamacare, and so on. This suggests that Republicans, while anti-choice on abortion, are pro-choice about most other things, but they are not. They have their own things they like to ban. Tony Perkins heads the Family Research Council. Tony, why can't I take any drug I want? It's my body.
It is your body, John, but the consequences are paid for by the broader society.
So we all pay for the damage caused by cigarettes and alcohol. Should we ban them?
Well, we certainly limit them. We restrict them. We don't ban them, but what we're talking about here is something that has been illegal that we're trying to make legal. Now, for instance, in alcohol, we tried banning that. It didn't work because we had something that was already legal and we tried to make it illegal. But here we're talking about something that has been illegal, and that is drugs. They've been controlled. Now we're talking about legalizing them. Once that happens, there's no turning back the clock on that, and the consequences will be quite significant for society as a whole. We'll all pay the price for that.
Another example. I'm nervous that as I age and get sick, I will be in great pain. I would like the control to end my own life when I want to. Why can't I?
It's a very difficult question, John. A lot of people have gone through that and they've struggled through those end-of-life issues. But let's look at what the actual numbers are on that. For instance, Oregon, where assisted suicide has been legal for about 2 decades, 20 years.
And now Montana, Vermont, Washington have also legalized it.
That's true, but what we have is we actually have history to look at here. In 20 years, we've actually seen an increase in just general suicide of up about 41% in Oregon compared to other states. And there are costs associated with that because a lot of times people don't succeed. And literally, we're talking millions of dollars a year that taxpayers are having to pay as a result of those who try to end their lives unsuccessfully and their health care costs related to that.
But that's the aberration. If I'm in horrible pain, why isn't it my choice?
Well, again, it's human life. We're talking about devaluing of human life. You say it's your choice, like the choices that we make each and every day, have impact upon other people. And we've decided as a society there's certain choices that the impact is significant, they're so significant that it affects the broader society that is choices we don't allow.
Moving on, why can't I marry a man?
Well, let's talk about marriage.
Or plural marriage. Why can't I marry 3 people, 2 men and a woman?
If you redefine marriage, that's what we'll end up with. But there's a reason, and this is really an issue of why is the government involved in marriage? Why just get government out of marriage?
Why?
Well, let's talk about why marriage. Well, let's talk about why government is involved in marriage and extend certain benefits to it. It's because marriage benefits society. It's where children grow up with the exposure to a mom and dad, and the social science is overwhelming that those children do better in society as a whole. So the reason government benefits marriage is because marriage benefits society.
Why can't I gamble? You support my right to buy lots of guns, but I can't bet on this weekend's football games?
Look, if people want to gamble, that's their business. But when the government becomes a party to it and promotes it and doesn't police it as they should, then I have a problem with it.
Can I burn a flag?
I would be opposed to it as one who served in the United States Marine Corps and have seen men give their lives for this country. Yeah, I think there are some things that we should hold as sacred in this country. And I believe the flag is one.
It's a form of protest speech.
I think out of respect for those who have given you that right, you should defer not to.
Well, I would never do it, but people should have a right to.
Well, we'll disagree there.
Should pornography be banned?
Again, it's the consequences that come from that. When we look
yes or no? Banned? No? Yes?
No. I think what the current standard is obscenity should be banned. When you look at what the consequences of that and people playing that out.
Should a woman be allowed to charge money to have sex? I mean, a boxer makes money off his body.
I do not believe we should decriminalize prostitution. Again, where we see that happening is where the government wants to get involved in it and tax it, and then they end up promoting it instead of regulating it.
Thank you, Tony Perkins, for coming on to answer tough questions. We agree to disagree. Next, let's leave politics for a moment and go into the real world. What does choice mean in your daily life? Been to the supermarket lately?
So much choice. Does all this choice enhance our lives? I'm overwhelmed. My next guest says no, it doesn't. When we return.
There was 57 channels and nothing on. 57 channels and nothing on.
That song's 22 years old now. Now I've got 557 channels with nothing on. But that's not true. We're just fussier now because we have all this choice. There's plenty of good stuff on, like this show. In any case, choice is a good thing. But do we now have too much of a good thing? Let's go to the supermarket. Tomato bash, all natural, vodka sauce, marinara, paisana.
My small supermarket offers a zillion types of spaghetti sauce.
Sicilian gravy, fire roasted. What the heck is that? Is that better than roasted garlic?
Reminds me of a rant by comedian Dennis Leary.
You can get every other flavor except coffee-flavored coffee. They got mochaccino, they got chocochino, frappuccino, cappuccino, rappuccino, Al Pacino.
He's talking about Starbucks. For the record, they don't have a flavor called Al Pacino, but plenty of people now argue that today we have too much choice. Here's a book about choice that argues more is less. That's the subtitle. The author is psychology professor Barry Schwartz. Barry, no, more is more.
Well, of course, more is more. The question is, does more get you more? And what the research I summarize in the book suggests is no, that 3 things happen to people when there are too many choices. One is that instead of being liberated by them, they're paralyzed. They can't pull the trigger.
It happens to me sometimes.
So you walk out of the grocery with no spaghetti sauce. 2, if they do choose, they make bad choices because it's a complicated thing to choose, and when there are lots of options and lots of dimensions to each option, chances go up that you're actually going to make a mistake. The third thing that happens is even if you choose well, you end up less satisfied because it's so easy to imagine that one of the alternatives that you didn't choose would have been better than the one that you did.
So you want the government to ban choices?
I never said the government should ban.
You're not a control freak. You're just talking about
this. I mean, that's
a
separate thing. That's in my hat as a political actor, not in my hat as a psychologist. I think people suffer when there's too much choice. Sometimes I think government should play a role.
And I have to say, you say people are paralyzed, but I don't see anybody walking out of the grocery store empty-handed.
People don't walk out empty-handed. They walk out with less stuff than they would walk out with if there were fewer options to choose from.
Oh, come on. And the stores aren't stupid. If that worked, they'd have fewer options.
I beg your pardon. The stores are remarkably stupid. Plus, there's enormous impetus on the part of producers to offer more and more choice in the fight for real estate in the supermarket. Pepsi offers 12 different varieties because every inch of shelf space that's taken up by Pepsi is an inch that's not taken up by Coke.
So paradise was the old Soviet Union?
Oh, come on. Nobody's saying that no choice is the ideal. The ideal is the right amount of choice, and if you then say, well, how much is that? I'll say, nobody knows.
I'm glad you don't want to totally limit these choices. There is one area in my life where I'm selfishly glad the government did limit choice. Television. When I got my start in TV, clueless politicians said they had to put limits on cable TV to protect poor people because cable channels are a threat to free TV. Because of those FCC rules, I made more money. I worked at CBS and then ABC at a time when most of you were only able to get maybe 5 channels, so millions of you watched me because you had few other choices. Great for me, bad for most everyone else. In England, when sensible politicians finally moved to deregulate broadcasting, the established TV channels argued competition was bad because it would lower the quality of TV. This BBC sketch mocks politicians who wanted to give viewers more choice.
We must strive to offer the consumer a far greater range of choice. For too long, broadcasting has been in the grip of a small elite. We must expand and offer more choice. What? Your cutlery, sir. Cutlery? These are plastic coffee stirrers. Yes, I know, but at least you've got the choice now, haven't you? I mean, they may be complete crap, but at least you've got a choice.
So is that your position? And get more choice or getting more garbage?
Well, the answer is when you have more choice, you get more garbage. You also get more good stuff. You know, there's 57 channels and nothing on. Well, it wasn't nothing on. There were 3 or 4 good things, and now there are 800 channels, and most of them are crap, worse than crap. They're almost unimaginably bad, but there are more really excellent options for people.
Again, going to the extreme example, people experience the opposite of too much choice in dictatorships like North Korea. 60 Minutes interviewed a man who escaped North Korea.
The most important thing was the thought that even a prisoner like me could eat chicken and pork if I were able to escape the barbed wires. I still think of freedom in that way.
Really? That's what freedom means to you?
People can eat what they want. It could be the greatest gift from God.
Choice of food is the greatest gift from God.
It's not transparent that it was choice of food. that was so great. What's great is actually being able to eat decent food. My guess is that if he were stuck with chicken, it would still have been a vast improvement over what he was getting in a North Korean prison. I think that it is a gift from God to be able to eat nutritious and tasty food. And I think that there's good reason to let people make choices in that domain. And I would never dream of restricting the number of options people have. All I'm saying is when you give people what they say they want, which is more choice, it actually doesn't make them better off.
And Starbucks is stupid for offering all these choices?
How many people who go into Starbucks order the same damn thing every day?
But the model seems to work because they keep opening new stores. People like to go there.
People like to go to Starbucks, arguably in spite of all the options that are offered, not because of them.
Thank you, Barry. I'm glad you don't want to outlaw choice. Coming up, some people who do. They want to outlaw me and my pink mustache.
We have to pay big money for licenses. We have to get fingerprinted. We have to have commercial insurance. Pink mustache has nothing.
You may have noticed that there's this new thing out there called the internet, and some Americans have these little things called smartphones. This innovation has changed life for the better by giving all of us much more choice. For example, there are now new taxi services like Uber and Sidecar that offer an alternative to traditional taxis. You book the car on your phone and the driver picks you up, or if you want to make some extra money driving people, you now can. I did it for a company called Lyft.
Lyft makes its drivers put this ridiculous mustache on our cars. It's a marketing gimmick, but it also helps a person who wants a pickup spot the car. I also have the passenger's phone number. Unlike normal cabs, Lyft drivers invite customers to get in the front seat.
Where are you headed? I think services like that are terrific. I could make some money. People got a ride. In fact, so many people like these new services that Uber is now valued at $18 billion.
I think it's fabulous. I think let them fight, go to town. It's causing so much buzz for the disruptors of the world. You don't want more regulation. You don't want rules.
Maybe we don't, but there are rules. Uber and Lyft are illegal most places, so what's going to happen to this extra choice? Adam Thierer keeps an eye on this for the Technology Policy Program at the Mercatus Center. What's going to happen? These companies keep growing, but they are basically illegal.
For far too long, many lawmakers have told us that regulation is put in place to protect consumer interests, but the reality is we now know that regulation often has unintended consequences and hurts consumers with higher prices, fewer choices, poor quality, and no better example of that than the world of taxi cabs, right? That's why Uber and Lyft are moving in and providing consumers with a real option that they want.
Which consumers like, and that's why they're valuable and growing. But the taxi companies rightly point out that, hey, we have to obey all these rules to make sure we're safe and licensed and have insurance.
Well, that's not an excuse for keeping out new innovation or choice. The better answer there is to basically put everybody on the same level playing field by liberalizing markets and giving innovators more chances so consumers have more choices.
So right now, Uber is in about 111 cities. The laws are all over the place. 2 governors have vetoed restrictions. 3 states let bills die. 2 have bills pending. 2 passed rules. And the companies are doing something we haven't seen in business before. They aren't saying, "Mother, may I?" They're following what you talk about in your book, permissionless innovation. They're just going ahead and doing it.
They're going out there and offering these options, and consumers are showing that they want those options.
Suddenly they got 1 million customers, and the politicians are saying, ooh, maybe I'm not going to get elected if I enforce these rules.
That's right, and that's why I'm optimistic that ultimately these technologies and these new services will prevail, because there's clearly a demand for them. Consumers were hungry for high-quality service. They were tired of stinky cabs and, high prices and this and other arenas, and now all of a sudden they're getting these options and they're saying, we want more.
So that's great for these internet businesses that work on my phone, but if you want to build a new car or a chemical plant or build homes in a new way, then you can't do it quickly. The regulators do crush you.
Well, it is certainly harder in the old economy sectors, but permissionless innovation can work its magic there as well. We just need to give it a chance.
Well, these options keep growing, and regulators are not happy, and cab companies are upset. They want to ban the competition. In San Francisco, they held this protest.
Cabbies lined up their cabs
then let them sit.
We have to pay big money for licenses. We have to get fingerprinted. We have to have commercial insurance. Pink Mustache has nothing.
You want to ban the competition.
We're not trying to ban the competition. What we'd like is to be competing with companies that follow the rules.
He's a taxi lobbyist. He kind of is trying to ban competition.
Yeah, they are. They're trying to stop consumer choice. They're trying to say that, well, we've always had it this way, we want to keep it this way. But the reality is that's because it served their interests, not the consumer's interests. So we need to change these rules to benefit consumers, not protected cronyist industries.
Virginia banned it, Germany banned it, and then they said, oops, no, we're not going to ban it.
Right. Well, consumers fought back, and they showed their elected leaders that they wanted options.
The lobbying continues. The Sunlight Foundation says the taxi industry is spending at least $3,000 giving it to politicians for every dollar that Uber, Lyft, and Sidecar give.
Yep, it's just more cronyism, John. What we're seeing is that these companies have always benefited from these regulations, and they want to protect what they've got. So they're going to lobby their lawmakers to try to make sure those choices do not exist for customers.
So Uber fights back with videos. Anti-ride-sharing regulation? No, this celebrates the benefits of choice and names places like Orlando, Florida that restrict it.
And it's great because consumers now have the ability to take matters into their own hands. They can talk back.
Thank you, Adam Thierer. Coming up, a few more wonderful new options from this sharing economy, like shared meals in a stranger's house.
Thanks for having us.
My big government-loving friends sometimes say, Stossel, what are you whining about? Americans voted for big government. Democracy is all about choice. If you don't like what the government does, you have a choice. You can vote the bums out. True.
This is an election alert.
Democracy is a sort of free market. We choose our representatives, but compared to a real free market, the political process is vastly inferior. We get to vote for politicians once every 2 or 4 or 6 years. If this is a market, it's a slow and clumsy one. In the private sector, we vote with our dollars, and we get to vote often for more stuff. And to win our votes, businesses must adjust constantly, not every 4 years, every day, every minute. Competition requires businesses to innovate or lose votes and die. Also, and most important, politics is a package deal. Vote for Obama, you get Obama policies. But in the free market, we have a million choices. Take food shopping. There are lots of different supermarkets with a million different foods and prices. Suppose you chose food the way we choose politicians. You get 2 choices, donkey meat or elephant meat. Maybe a third choice if some other food producer gets enough signatures on a petition to allow them into the grocery store. But basically, every 4 years, people vote for donkey or elephant meat. Then, no matter how you voted, you have to eat what the majority picked. But in the free market supermarket, I can pick elephant and you can pick donkey. We can each get what we want. And that freedom to choose forces entrepreneurs to compete, to give us better choices every second. Government bureaucrats routinely try to crush this innovation. Change makes them nervous. But as my last guest said today, thanks to the internet, they don't always stop the innovation. It's not just Uber and Lyft that so far have outrun the regulators. Other cool parts of the sharing economy do it too.
Websites like EatWith and Feastly allow cooks to connect with strangers willing to pay to eat with and meet new people at a dinner party in someone's home.
Thanks for having us.
They don't obey all the restaurant regulations, but more customers choose them anyway.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. Chocolate.
Likewise, new home sharing services like Roomarama and Airbnb thrive. If you're visiting New York, you don't need to pay for a hotel room. You can stay at someone's apartment for less. Of course, the predictable groups, unions, the hotel industry, and the politicians whom they fund don't like this new competition. They released this video that purports to show how bad some Airbnb rentals are. Now, I'm sure some homes are this bad, just as some hotel rooms are this bad, although the video doesn't mention that. But the beauty of choice is that you don't have to stay here. I don't think the anti-choice people get that their own commercial demonstrates that consumers are protected even without government regulation. The complaints they cite here come from public reviews. Hosts and guests review each other. Bad rentals like these won't sucker tourists again. As long as people are allowed to make choices and speak about them, consumers are better off. We must not allow politicians to limit our choices. They don't know what we want or will want. 20 years ago, a few people would have said America needs more coffee shops selling expensive coffee. But apparently that's what Americans did want. Who knew? Government didn't. And if we let government make the decisions, we'll have far fewer choices or no choice. People forget the empty shelves and shortages in the Soviet Union. When Americans go shopping, we don't thank free enterprise for the abundance of choice it provides, but we should. The simplest supermarket is a wondrous thing.
Think about it. 30,000 products on average. The food is unbelievably cheap. The aisles are wide, they're well lit, the store's open 24/7, they rarely poison us. Supermarkets are a miracle, and yet we take this for granted. It's just part of capitalism.
Next time you go shopping, stop and say, thank God for free enterprise and the choice it gives us. That's our show. See you next week.